Let's begin to look at this final connection between quadrant number 4 and quadrant number 1. By this point, you have quite a list growing from quadrant number 1 about who and what is important to them in their life, as well as personal qualities. You've also made a list in quadrant number 4 about some of the committed actions that are meaningful to them in their life. I typically like to make the connection between quadrants 1 and 4 by starting in quadrant 1. This seems to be the most natural fit as you begin to identify who and what is important to them. In this example, the client has come up with family as being someone who is important to them. After they've selected who is important to them, you may want to ask them what are the emotions associated or the thoughts associated that come to mind when they think of family. In this case, the client may put that feelings of love, responsibility, having fun. And once you've identified these emotions that go along with this value, you're going to go ahead and draw an arrow from quadrant 1 to quadrant 4, similar as you did with quadrant 2 to quadrant 3. From here, you would begin to ask, because you value your family, and when you think of family, you think of love, responsibility, fun, what is some committed action, or what are some actions that would be meaningful or fulfilling to do with your family or when you think of your family? This gets the client thinking in terms of connecting values to doing a committed action. It also connects the emotion of the value with taking action. In this example, the client identified that when they think of family and think of the emotions of love, responsibility, fun, the committed action that they would like to do would be to go to the park to spend time with the family. This is where I take on much more of a solution-focused role as I begin to ask them, once they go to the park, what will make it a meaningful and fulfilling action while they are there? What are some of the things that they can see themselves doing with their family to make it meaningful? This will help emphasize the concept that merely making the event happen isn't sufficient, that going and doing the action also involves doing it with purpose and with a specific meaning. Many of our clients have left action up to external locus of control, meaning that they hope the event will cause change, as opposed to more of an internal locus of control, where they have more of a say about how the event turns out or how they experience the event while they're there. This will bring us back to the concept in the middle of the matrix about the importance of being in the present moment and the observing self. This is a time where you can point out going to the park involves being in the present moment and observing what they're thinking, feeling, and the actions they are taking. It's important that clients begin to learn that being in the present moment and valuing what is currently happening while at the park is the purpose. That is where meaning is found, and that's where fulfillment is found. Many clients hope that the outcome of the event is what will make them happy. This is a big shift and a reframe for many clients. Feeling fulfilled and feeling meaning is in the moment of the experience, and not necessarily hoping the event will cause a certain emotion at the end or causing a certain emotion during the event. They themselves can find meaning as they are in the present moment and observing what is going on. This is where you're going to then connect quadrant number 4 back to quadrant number 1 in asking them, once they're at the park and with their family, what does that cause them to think and possibly feel? They may respond with a reply such as they feel a deeper appreciation, a deeper love, or more gratitude about their family or spending time with their family. This is where you can ask them once again, as they begin to feel more appreciation, love, and gratitude about their family, what are some other committed actions or meaningful actions that they can take to further deepen their appreciation or gratitude or love for their family? This will then do another connection up to quadrant number 4 and build upon the going to the park action. This may lead this particular client to express that a date night with a spouse or a partner might be an additional action to deepen their appreciation or love or gratitude for their spouse and for their family. Once they've identified this particular committed action of doing a date night with a spouse or partner, again in a very solution-focused way, you can ask them what they might be doing and what are some of the ways that they would be more present during this particular activity to make it more meaningful or more fulfilling. Such things might be paying more attention to the conversation, or paying attention to how their spouse or partner looks, or being complimentary to their spouse or partner, or making more of an effort to have a positive attitude during the committed action. Any of those ideas can be processed as part of a solution-focused activity to get them to imagine this committed action taking place and how it might begin to make them feel, or how they may begin to react as a result of doing this committed action. This will once again bring us back down to the connection with quadrant number 1 as a deepening of their emotions that connect with their values. By doing this activity, it will be similar to what you did in quadrants 2 and 3. Many clients can begin to have an aha moment as they see the connections between doing committed actions and how that affects them deeply emotionally as they connect with their values, and as they take continuous committed actions more and more, how that begins to influence the way they feel about themselves, the world around them, and others around them. Feel free to run through a couple of examples with the client, selecting different values of who or what is important to them, and doing this connection between quadrants 1 and 4. After a few cycles of these connections, you can sit back and with the client, you can process the difference between the connections of quadrants 2 and 3 and the pattern that has kept them stuck for many years or through much of their life, and what it looks like to have a connection between their values and taking committed action. This juxtaposition should stand in stark contrast to one another and should begin to help the client and you as a clinician begin to formulate a plan, as the client should begin to realize and the clinician can begin to explain this is the roadmap to beginning to achieve their personal goals and to begin to live a much more fulfilling and meaningful life. The important point here is reminding clients that committed action is doing things because they're important and not waiting for the emotion to drive them or the motivation or energy to drive them to take the action. For example, spending time with the family is taking committed action whether or not they have the energy or the motivation to do that. They take a committed action because they know the family and that value is important and takes precedent to them, and that they will find meaning as they take the committed action and not wait for motivation or energy to drive them toward taking action. You can also point out the connection between quadrants 2 and 3 is the client's attempt to escape emotion and reduce the intensity of what they are feeling as far as discomfort and challenge and difficult feelings. In quadrants 4 and 1, it's the opposite. They're looking to enhance the feelings that they have for those things that are important to life, as they realize that their actions actually grow their emotions and reinforce them wanting to do more and more towards who and what is important to them. This ends very much the assessment portion of using the ACT matrix. Afterwards, you can begin to go back through the ACT matrix, explaining some of the deeper concepts that ACT therapy uses to address some of the challenging and more difficult experiences that keep clients stuck. For example, quadrants 2 and 3 particularly is where you will spend most of your time as you go back through the ACT matrix and discuss the skills and techniques and concepts that will help them move from quadrants 2 and 3 over to the right side of the matrix, moving towards committed action and their individual values. Those concepts, skills, and techniques will be covered in future videos.